computer. All right. Well, thank you. Welcome to the first Tower Garden call of 2021. Woohoo! So we have from experienced to brand new Tower Gardeners on the call. I have Kirsten just set hers up. How long has it been? It's been like a week, maybe?
Yeah, probably about 4 days.
Okay. Yeah. She's like, so it's a brand new baby. And what I wanted to ask you before, when I wanted to record, how did you start the seedlings? Just because I know you had some that were a little leggy, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah. I started them, well, I watched a video on YouTube by you folks. So I started them in the wool blocks and used vermiculite. And
Perfect.
for the lettuce, I did only half the vermiculite, and then the other ones, the bigger seeds, I did full.
Okay, yeah. You fill it up, it just kind of mimics the darkness or kind of mimics the ground. And that's why you put the little vermiculite on top. I've gone back and forth with using it and not using it. And I think it does work better when you do use the vermiculite. Because I've had it for a couple years, so I've just experimented. What I've learned, the biggest thing that you need when it comes to seeds or starting new seeds is good light.
Yeah.
And obviously the water, so they maintain their moistness. But the other one is heat. Like, so like a warm windowsill or things like that actually help the seeds to germinate quicker. Those are things that I've noticed, or if anyone has problems with the starting of the seedling process, usually it's one of those three. From me, most of the time it was not getting warm enough. So I've had people put even a heating blanket or like a heating pad underneath the tray of seedlings just to kind of warm it up.
Okay.
To help with the heat. But a warm sunny window works well too.
Yeah.
But the other thing is the light, and having the light be close to it as possible. Obviously, if it's in a sunny window, like it's going to get the light through the window. But if you're using any other lights, like the lights here, I've noticed, I've had times, because I put the seedlings on the bottom of the tray, but the lights over here, they stretch. So they're not getting, it's like not close enough. So I've learned recently here, I planted more and I put them on this tray and then put the light right above it. And that made a huge difference in how many of my seedlings germinated and how many of them didn't. Like, that made a huge difference.
Yeah.
So I just cleaned my tower garden yesterday. It might have been for the call. Not gonna lie. But I just cleaned it up. It looks so pretty. I actually even we did a time-lapse video. I did a time-lapse, like taking it down and then putting it back together. That was kind of cool. I was going to see if I could show the time-lapse video, but I'm not sure if I can get it on the computer to work well, but it's cool. Super, super cool. So, Kirsten, are you in a place that you can show us your tower?
Oh, that's why I called in on my phone.
Perfect. Okay.
All right. So actually the lights just turned off.
Oh, yep. That's about time. Yeah.
So now I just have to figure out how to, oh, there we go.
Tap on the screen. There you go. You got it. Oh, yay.
Here it is.
So 4 days old.
I planted I planted one of many. So I'm just trying everything out to see what I like, what grows well, what totally fails. I have a couple fails already.
Oh, no.
I know. It's fair. Well, maybe not. He's got a little happy leaf right there.
Which it looks like the Swiss chard?
No, this was lettuce.
Oh, okay. Lettuces can be kind of finicky sometimes.
They are. Most of the other stuff is doing really well, but
Okay, what's your real long ones?
these are squash.
Oh, nice. What kind of squash?
Oh my gosh, and cucumber.
Oh,
That
okay.
summer crookneck squash, Edmondson cucumber, which is a really small one, and black beauty zucchini.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I was gonna just say for that, and why I wanted to see yours is a lot of the squashes, especially if
Yeah.
they'll when they become mature, they have real big broad leaves and they get heavy. So putting them towards the bottom is usually better. But the
Okay.
cucumbers are okay because you can kind of trellis it along the tomato cage,
Okay.
and those work well. But yeah, squashes they kind of, as one of my favorite people in Tower Garden inspiration, where is he? My brain just went blank. What's his name, Chris? Stephen Ritz. Stephen Ritz. Stephen Ritz says that squash is a bully because it has
Okay.
big leaves, so you have to be careful because it'll like crowd out other stuff, and then it'll kill off other leaves just because they have big broad leaves and they spread way out. So just
Okay.
pay attention to that because it's like the schoolyard bully.
Got it. And then should they be above or below tomatoes? Because this little guy's tomato, I tried to put I think I remembered you saying put most of the viney stuff down
Yep.
near the bottom.
Yep. Tomatoes. Yeah, tomatoes towards the bottom. And then what I usually do is you have tomatoes like on that bottom row. Then I would say the one up, which is not going to be the next one because it's going to be off center, and the one up. I usually plant like lettuces right in those. And the
Okay.
reason why, because as the tomato plant's growing, your lettuces can be harvested pretty quickly. So you can actually get a full head of lettuce, or you can get a bunch of lettuce leaves before the tomato plant gets too big. Because once the tomato plant, it'll actually kind of choke the light out or choke some of the other plants out. That's what happened when I just redid my tower garden, because we grew a marijuana plant on one side, very much like tomatoes in that it's a big bully and it was a big bush on the one side. So I planted on the bottom, but there was like 3 or 4 different spots that didn't get any sunlight because the plant got so big. So it's like that kind of stuff, which is kind of trial and error. You'll learn more as you go. And it's like, oh, hey, okay. Do you have words to quit, Chris?
I was gonna say, are you aware that if it's indoor and they're flowering plants, that you have to be the pollinator?
Yes, I actually do know that.
Okay.
I've
good.
never done it before, so it will be trial and error, but
Right. Well, you just have to pretend you're a little busy bee flying around.
that works. I
Exactly.
can do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, you got to touch all the little things, little flowers, and touch them
Yep.
all. I mean, I've had people do it like real fancy and get like a Q-tip or a paintbrush, but I've had a pretty good success with just like touching it with my fingers, just touching all the little blooms. That seems to be fine too. So you can be real technical on how you do it, or you can be kind of, like I said, I've gotten kind of lazy. That's why I like the Tower Garden so much, is because it makes me look like I know what I'm doing when I'm just fumbling. Well, Chris, I know it's dark, so you can't probably show off your Tower Garden. Can you like
You know what?
give any pictures
Let
of
me-
it?
Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can go outside and turn my flashlight on my phone on, because I'm on my phone. All right.
Oh, perfect.
So let me see if this will work. Check it out.
Because she's got 3.
Oh, wow.
And
But
they're
mine are all outside right now.
And she's in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona. This is the perfect time to grow. It's completely opposite of the rest
Let's
of
see.
the lights. So it's
Okay.
fun.
I don't know what you guys can see. Let me see if I got to go back to my Zoom. There. Okay.
Yep, there you go. Also, we can't see.
Oh, is my flashlight not working?
Oh, it might
The
not work. 'Cause
flashlight's
you're
on, but
the
then
phone.
Nope, it's not working when I click it. Hold on a second. I can turn on my lights back here. I still have all my Christmas stuff up. Haven't even done anything yet.
I think you're supposed to be Christmas until like the end of January, I think. I'm
I
always
don't know.
excited to see
Let's
the
see.
Christmas lights. I'm like, yay, Christmas lights. I actually did that. I ran in the house, to be 100% honest. I'm like,
Oh, they're
I went
not.
to go
Oh,
see. I went to go see my cousin has a 33-day-old baby. So we were
Aw.
over there, and I was like, I had to hold her. She was adorable. And so we stayed a little bit longer because she was asleep in my arms. And I was like, all right, run home. I have a call right now.
Oh, I know. I was at the store and ran home. All right, I'm gonna get a flashlight because apparently our floodlights are not in the back
Oh, they're
because
not
we
the right
had our Christmas lights hooked up to the front one, so we didn't want to have floodlights on in the back. But
That makes sense.
I have a high powered
Fancy.
flashlight.
Nice. Mag
All right.
light. Those
We're
things
gonna
are
get it.
great.
We're gonna get it. Let's see if I know how to use this flashlight. Oh yeah. Oh, that gives good light.
Perfect.
All right. Now let me turn my camera around. Zoop. Switch. Yes.
Yep.
All
We
right.
can see it.
So here, these are my babies outside. you see that?
Wow.
Oh,
So I've got some nice tomatoes growing down there. Can you see those?
Yeah.
Tomatoes, quite a few big ones. And then I've got some yellow pear tomatoes over there.
My
My
favorite.
corner, some tomatoes. This lettuce, bib lettuce. Look at how nice and pretty it looks.
Wow.
It's big. And I think I've eaten off of these, like the Swiss chards and the kales for probably, I bet you 9 months or more. Those are all my, that's a Swiss chard. So this is my indoor one, but I have it outdoor because I had bug issues. I've got, but it's doing much better outside.
Is that a
So I've got
cabbage or just a
parsley
leaf?
No, you know what? I don't know if it's a cabbage or if it's cauliflower.
Oh.
I'm not sure because somebody said, oh, my cauliflower opened up. And I'm like, oh, maybe that's cauliflower. And I was eating it like cabbage. I don't know.
Huh.
I mean, I've just been taking the leaves off the back and I put it in my smoothie. And I've got kale up there and celery. There's some basil. I've got a couple of, I put marigolds, I think, on each one of them just to keep some of the buggies away. And then this is my one that's pretty much just all like spinach, and there's green onion on the top, some oregano, different lettuces.
Your spinach looks beautiful.
I know it's really growing nice. I kind of had, during summertime, it just wasn't growing super well, but now it's growing really pretty well. So yeah, those are my three. This is my newest one that I got, and then I have an indoor home, and then this is my one I've had since Tower Garden came out.
And it's been like, I want to say it was like 8 years, maybe.
It'll be 8 years in April. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's when I think Tower Garden came out. So, but yeah, everything's kind of really growing a lot right now. I need to start. I said, I harvest off of this daily for smoothies and for salads and different things, but I'm not keeping up with it a lot either. And there's my dog Maggie. So Maggie, say hi.
Hi, Maggie.
Maggie, you say hi.
She's like, it's a
And
flash.
there's Callie. That's my dog Callie. There's Callie and Maggie. Oh. Yeah, this one, she's been jumping into my garden. Like over there, I planted an in-ground garden.
Okay.
And she's been jumping in my garden and digging.
Oh,
Like, get out of my
because you made it all nice and soft.
probably. Yeah, I'm gonna show you. I've got some my sugar snap peas are growing. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Can you see those? The sugar snap peas? And then I don't know. I think that there's some carrots growing over here someplace, but we just kind of plant. Oh, there. It's like little tiny baby carrots right there.
So fun. So sometimes it's good to have the in the
So-
ground just to have a little more, like, especially like beets. Like I have my little beet plant that I brought
Yeah.
in from. You can't grow that on the
Yeah.
tower garden.
And that's really, we wanted to get the in-ground one specifically for like carrots and beets and things like that. So, yeah.
Well, your towers look
Oh, did it switch
beautiful.
over?
Oh, yep, we're looking at the floor.
There we go.
Thanks.
There we go. I switched
Thanks
it
for
there.
showing.
I know. Yeah, they're doing pretty good.
Okay, Chris, maybe you can think
Mhm.
on this, or maybe you have something right away. But since Kirsten's pretty new, since you've had a tower garden for 8 years, is there any like words of wisdom you would give a brand new tower gardener
Mm.
you could think of?
Um,
Of like plant the viney stuff down low.
right. Yeah.
That's one that I
guess,
learned.
I guess the biggest thing is it's always trial and error. Don't get frustrated. Have fun with it. And, it's kind of like a learn as you go.
Yeah.
And, it's not gonna, some people, you kind of have to just kind of figure out how it grows best in different locations. Like even for me in my backyard, I know I have to have them further to the south to get better light in the winter time, and in the summertime they have to be in a different location. So they kind of, just where the sun is. But you have an indoor one. I don't know where you live, but
Yeah.
it's kind of trial and error and kind of just, playing around with it. And there's going to be times where, like I said, my indoor one, I was so excited and had it and it was growing really well. And then I got aphids like a lot. And I'm like, how are we going to control these things? And I'd even take it outside, spray it off, and I'd spray it with different things. And I don't know, I had a lot of aphid issues. And so I just thought, forget it. I'm just going to put it outside. And then I've had really not many issues with it outside, but I had the aphids inside. So be aware that just because you have it inside doesn't mean you're not going to have bugs, because I almost had more bug problems inside than I did outside.
Okay.
I mean,
So
thank you. That's good.
yeah,
to
the
know.
lights are great, but it is hard to mimic the sun. The sun definitely has a different spectrum than what we can make. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was one thing with the indoor. They say that indoors sometimes do get more bugs. So I usually recommend to plant either, like, I like nasturtiums. Nasturtiums are pretty, but marigolds. Marigolds
Right.
are a really pretty flower, but that deter bugs for sure.
Oh, good. I have some seeding right now.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
perfect.
Yeah, marigolds are pretty, and
I have a marigold on each one of mine just to ward off different bugs.
And another thing that I learned from another tower gardener, especially when he talked about inside stuff, is he said, make sure don't go outside and futz with your outside garden and do things outside and then come inside and mess with the tower garden. Like, that's one thing he said, like, make sure you wash your hands. If not, like, change clothes before you mess with your inside tower garden, because the bug issue is we could bring bugs in from outside, but then there's no predators. There's nothing, there's no ladybugs that are going to find your tower garden if you brought aphids in or things like that. So yeah, washing your hands before touching your indoor tower garden definitely made a difference. Luckily, I haven't, but like I said, I planted marigolds. That was good. I did a few questionable things, like when it started to snow, I brought in a potted plant and I stuck it next to the tower garden because I live in a basement apartment. There's not much natural light. So I was like, well, it's going to die if I don't put it right next to the tower garden with the lights. But luckily I've been good. But yeah, it's just watching for stuff. You get a lot less bugs on a tower garden than you do like in the ground stuff. But it's just kind of a fun experiment. Like when I got, outside, we would get moths that would lay eggs underneath the leaves.
Yeah.
So then you would see, and it was like, what the heck? It's this weird, there's all these like black spots all over the bottom of the tower garden. And I'm like, what is that? Why? I'm like, I've got bugs that are on the bottom. And it wasn't till it took me a little bit, but I realized that it was poop. from the things that were on the leaves, and they was just like, so that's those all little black spots. It was worm poop. But the fun part about the tower garden and the design is that it's a white surface. So if you see white surface and you see in one area that there's little black spots, then you just have to follow that up to see where it came from, because gravity is going to go straight down. So then you can just follow the poop trail up, and then you can find the worm. And that, I actually did a funny video about that, but yes, I was like, you got to follow the worm poop. But aphids are probably the pain in the butt ones, but they're edible. I'm just gonna put that out there. I've eaten quite a few. Rinse them off, throw it in a salad. No one will know as long as you don't tell them. But usually you're pretty good. It's usually, and you'll get aphids if the plants get stressed. That's usually when you'll get aphids. It's stressed out plants, which normally you don't have. Like your tower garden started inside, it's stayed inside. Everything's probably going to be fine. And I would say, I mean, bugs do happen, but they happen a lot less on the tower garden, which is fun. So,
and I wouldn't doubt that my dogs probably helped my bug problem, because they probably brought in, just, dander of their fur and different things, and they're running in and out. And so that is probably, they were probably the carriers.
That makes sense. You can't really control the dog, like, wash your hands.
Right.
Don't go in and out.
They're running around, they're shaking, and stuff's flying, and like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So they were probably part of the problem.
That makes sense. But you know what? I think I can actually put it above here. I'm going to show you the taking down the tower garden, I think I can show you here. If I talk, and as long as you can see me, you could see what the tower garden looked like, and then I took it down. It's only like 35 seconds though. So I had a bunch of living plants still on it. So we basically just set them on the towel on the floor and rearranged and cleaned the whole tower garden out. It basically just rinsed it off because there was mineral buildup on it. And I took it outside, rinsed it off. And then we put it back together, but I did that in a couple different videos.
Yeah. How long were your roots on your live plants?
Oh, I did. I actually took a video of the roots on, well, depends on which one. Some of them, like Swiss chard and, pause that. Swiss chard usually has a giant root ball. Broccoli, kale, those have pretty good roots, but not crazy. But the pot plant had like crazy roots. Plus it was on the bottom. So I actually took a video of the plants like up close, just so you could kind of see. So that was all the roots inside.
Oh, wow.
And so that was basically just a stick because I had harvested everything else off. So that's what came off of the tower garden.
Nikki, do you not cut your roots in your tower? You don't?
Yeah, some tower gardeners do. I never have.
I give them a haircut. So yeah, I cut them so that the roots aren't just hanging down into the water, because then that's just going to suck your water up even more and everything. So I always keep my roots cut above the water line as much as possible.
That's what they say.
But then it doesn't even. Then it helps to not get into your pump as well, because that can kind of like get in your pump and clog it up and cause just more stuff. So I always keep my roots cut.
Yeah.
I never have. They're just kind of, again, on the lazy side. I just want to see what I can get away with if I don't do much. I know a lot of tower gardens will say that to maintain it clean. I just kind of move the roots away from the pump and I wash out the pump every so often, and that's made a difference. But yeah, it depends on some of them. I was actually really shocked Here, let me show you. I have a pepper plant. I'll kind of give you a tour, but can you see my peppers?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So I've got a couple different peppers, but I was shocked that this plant, I planted this November of last year. So it's gone through two, like I've taken it out and set it on and cleaned the tower garden and put it back together and just put it back in there, and it's been fine. Like I'm getting more peppers now that it's over a year old than I did when I first started. So they can keep going, and that's the fun thing is like everything else needed to be harvested, but the pepper plant was still fine. So I kept the pepper plant going and it just cleaned out the rest of it. So that's fun because you can keep certain things just going. So I did that. And then, well, I was shocked when I took it out. Like the roots are only like this long. You have this big plant that takes up like, I don't know, 3 spaces almost. And the roots are like nothing. So it kind of depends on the plant. Now it's going to turn on right now. Fun. So here, I'll give you another. So I rearrange things. I have this is the nasturtium plant. And it kind of weaved through, and I kind of just hung it back up here to kind of, so it's kind of going up the side of the tower garden, which is kind of fun. And this is peppers. I thought it was a bell pepper. I didn't really remember what I planted. But when I was looking at it yesterday, it's got like little, there's shishito peppers. So I have 2 little shishito pepper plants here. And I've got kale. This is like a mustard greens. There's the pepper from a different angle. I've got like 4 little peppers on it. They're so exciting. And then Swiss chard. This Swiss chard's like pretty new. I planted it, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. Another Swiss chard. And I've got kale back over here. And then onions. And then this one's a broccoli plant up here. And then this is another broccoli. So this is probably too much broccoli. I have like 4 in there. I really designed it to be microgreens, but obviously I didn't get harvested in time. So now it's a broccoli plant. But what I'll do now is, now that I've like paying attention to this, that I've got 4 plants in there. So a broccoli head's really not going to be able to grow in this space. So I'll find the best looking one and probably kill the other 3. And you can eat it. So like, even though it's not forming a broccoli, all the greens are great. I just throw them in smoothies or saute them up with something. The jury's still out for me on this. I've had my tower garden. Again, if you notice, my tower garden's a little bit taller than yours. I got the microgreens extension. So this little piece and this little piece are the microgreens extension. So it makes it 2 higher. I had them up top when I first started, but I've kind of moved them down. The first time, if it was up here, it's way taller than I am. So I never like checked them, and a lot of the stuff died. So I'm like redoing it again and did it in a lower position so I see it. But out of all the tower garden stuff, I'm not 100% sold on the microgreens extension. I'm not sure I like it. It's harder to clean, which is like, I don't like. But I mean, the jury's still out. I'm trying to see if there's any other tips that I can find of people that are successful with it. But for me, it makes a bigger mess on the floor too. Because 1, I don't have them full, so that's part on me for sure. But they splashes, so when the water kind of splashes out from here. When the other spots, it's pretty like I don't have any splashing issues whatsoever. So that's kind of.
Since I had issues with my microgreens, the rock will not staying in place, and it would fall off that little ledge and go because there's no net pot for the microgreen section. You just put your rock wool straight into it, and they just, I don't know, they just would tip over or fall off just down into the bottom. And I'm like, well, great. Now how am I going to get that out? You know, I'm going to have to take the whole tower apart to try to get it out, because you can see there's like a little white, there's just a little white ledge. There needs to be like, I don't know, two
Here, I'll
ledges
plant
in
this.
there.
This was the other thing I was going to do. Since I have all these that are about to be planted, I cleaned the tower garden. So there's like a little ledge in there that this just sits on.
Right.
If it does, we'll see.
I mean, it does, but if it tipped, you know, like, I don't know, mine tipped over and fell down inside the tower, down onto
You
the
go
bottom,
around, you go
know?
around the edge and like make sure
Yeah.
it stays in there.
Hmm.
So if those aren't full, I notice that it splashes, and I don't like that design. But the rest of it, I like that it makes the tower garden taller though, especially with the lights. But I don't know. I also don't know, since it is taller, are the plants up here getting enough light? That's the other thing that I've had to do is move this. So you see this, you kind of like have to move it up so they make sure they get enough light up top.
Yeah.
So that's just one trial and error thing that I've noticed. So do we have any other burning questions that you can think of?
How often do you guys like take apart and clean your gardens?
Maybe once a quarter to once a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of do it seasonally, you know, like from winter to summer. I don't really do, I don't know. Sometimes it just
I would
depends
maybe
on
twice a year.
Yeah, twice a year for sure, but you know, maybe 3 times a year sometimes, just depending on, it really kind of depends on what I have growing and if I'm going to harvest a bunch of stuff. And if I'm going to do that, then I'm just going to take it all out and clean it, and then you know, take a look at the plants that are still okay and thriving, and then getting new plants in. But I would say kind of seasonally. But,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that usually it's when I'm like, ooh, okay, I have like maybe 3 plants that are still good, but the most of them I've harvested most of it, like lettuces are gone or that. I'm like, you know what, it's easier. I also do, just because you do get the mineral buildup. So I know yours is brand new, so you haven't got this yet, but sometimes like mineral will build up, and there's more mineral buildup on the microgreens extension too, but like right here. So it'll be like you have your 3 different or your 5 different layers. So this layer, it'll be like right in here. You'll get some mineral buildup. It's just it just kind of goes around the edges, and just kind of wipe that off with a paper towel or something. That's the only reason I washed it this yesterday is because there was more minerals on it than I wanted to wipe off. So I was like, I just went to the shower and just rinsed them off instead. So it was pretty easy. But yeah, it's pretty easy. And what I've also recently learned, and it has made a huge difference, I always use vinegar, like just vinegar and water. I'm not going to clean the tower garden with anything that I personally wouldn't use on my body or eat. Like I've had some people like use bleach or use different things, but I don't use bleach. So I found citric acid. I got it from another tower gardener. So you could order a 5-pound bag on Amazon and you just kind of soak it in it. Which here, I'll go get the bag so you can see it.
Kristen, I was also thinking that my first year, my pH levels were really, really good for a long time. And then towards the mature part of the growing season, I couldn't control the pH as well, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I think Nikki is the one that told me that I think I had a lot of roots in the water, and that changed things a little bit. So the real thing I'm saying is it's good for you to check your pH and understand and know how it usually reacts and how it usually is, so that you can recognize, oh, my pH is getting harder to control. So I mean, in other words, I was fixing it with whatever the additive was, and then it was out of sync again. So
Yeah. No, that is a very good idea.
Yeah.
Just learning its patterns.
Yeah. And I test the pH of just the water that you put in. So you kind of know, like the pH comes out of our faucet here at like an 8. So that's pretty good. But sometimes it'll get like really acidic. Like when I was growing the pot plant, it was the first time I've ever done that. It actually made the tower garden really acidic all the time. And that was another reason that I cleaned it out, just because I was adding so much base all the time that I'm like, I've got to throw off the balances. Like the rest of the plant looked okay, but I knew that the potwood plant was pulling a whole bunch of the nutrients out of the water, out of the solution. Because it was like every time I would check it, it would like, normally it would be 8. And then I'd like the next day I'd like to check it and it was like 5. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
But normally it doesn't swing that much, especially when you have a whole bunch of different plants. I've noticed, it doesn't really change a whole lot. The pot plant was the only thing that I noticed changed it a whole lot. And that was, I mean, totally experimenting with it, since I live in a state that I can, and someone gave it to me. I'm like, sure, let's see what it looks like. Let's see how it works. But back to the citric acid. I just got this on Amazon for like $15. I totally cleaned the entire tower garden with it. It's 5 pounds. Essentially, you could eat it. They make it for food, for like a preservative. So I'm again not super measury. So it was more like a shake a little bit in the bathtub, and just kind of like let it soak in the bathtub. Or you can let it soak in the tower garden base itself, since everything fit in it. I just kind of soak it in there for a little bit, and that made it come off, made any of the calcium buildup or anything like that come off pretty easily.
Oh, good.
So citric acid was a gate. I was like, oh, that's cool. Because vinegar works. It just doesn't work near as fast as this. So I like it, and it works for food. So I'll take it.
Right, because isn't citric acid one of the things that you use in preserving?
Yep.
Isn't that part of the packs? Or
Yep. Yeah, they use it. It says like jams, or you can use it for laundry, preserving, canning, bread making. It says like all these things that you could use it on. I was like, oh, that's cool. And when I cleaned it with this, I did probably put a little bit of base in it afterwards. So after I filled it up, just from the residue from the citric acid. So I noticed that a little bit. But overall, it's been pretty fun. And what I recommend doing, especially inside as far as adding nutrients, so where your plants are, how much of the nutrients did you add to the water? The tower garden nutrients, Aeroponics?
Yeah, I added, I think it was 200 mils of each.
Perfect.
And then had, when I tested the pH after, it was right around 6.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
The goal is between 5 and 6.5, right?
Yeah. The goal is, really like 5.5 and 6.5 on the scale. That's another thing. On the scale, I wouldn't be like, it needs to be a perfect like 6 all the time. Like it can go from 5.5 to 6.5. On that little sheet that you get, I always say green is good. If it's green, it's okay. If it starts getting orange, it's not good. If it starts getting blue, it's not really that great. Granted, I had my pH at about, I hovered at around 8 when I was in Arizona, and my tower garden seemed to be fine. Like I could micromanage and put acid in it and bring it down, but I just left it at 8, and I was like, it seems to be like all the plants were totally fine. So I would say green is good. When it's outside that blue or orange, then make sure to change it. But it's not something that has to be perfect on the dot. That was something that I learned from Tim Blank, who's the creator of the Tower Garden. He said that. He's like, it's kind of like a zone. It's not necessarily like a spot that you need to be in.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and it kind of, plants will move and everything will be good. And I'm excited to see your plants grow.
Yeah, me too. I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous. You'll be good. And if you kill some plants, that's the hardest part for me still. But sometimes it's like, thank you for being part of my learning process, and then throw it out and put some plants something else. Don't be distraught if you kill something, because it happens.
No, it's really fun. and it is beautiful to look at.
Nice. So Joan, I didn't ask if I just assumed you didn't have yours planted yet. Is it, because I know you just moved, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
I didn't
still not
ask.
planted, but well, I think we're starting to get to weather where I think it'll be okay. I'm not as brave as Chris, but yeah, because mine is going to be on a, what is that, north? East, east, south, east. Hi!
He heard your voice.
Aw. Yeah, so like I'm not sure if it's in the right place because I get some brutal sun here, and so I'm trying to pick a place that's not going to burn everything. But yeah, so.
So
But I
it
wanted to ask.
depends. Go ahead.
Go ahead, finish, and I'll
I
ask
was
my
going to
question
say
afterwards.
for the sun, it depends on the time of year. So like if you're in Arizona, it can handle full sun like November through February. It can handle
Mhm.
full brutal sun all
Okay.
because the temperatures are low enough, it's okay.
Mhm.
But when you get to like starting, I would say it could even handle it maybe March or April. Quote me if I'm
Right.
wrong, Chris. But then once you start getting into like the temperature is like 100, once it gets up to there, you definitely need afternoon shade.
Afternoon shade. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So if you can, so east facing is the best, or whatever, but
Okay.
the afternoon shade. And that's the fun thing about the tower garden is that for like the winter months, you could have it in one location, and the summer months, you can move it into a completely different location, which makes it easy.
Yeah. Cool.
So
And then
yeah.
I wanted to ask Chris about her tomatoes. So remember before I was having trouble with blossom end rot on my tomatoes, and her tomatoes look beautiful. So I was going to ask, say, Chris, are you doing anything special or watching something on your pH for your water, or what are you doing for your tomatoes? Nothing. She's not doing anything.
Although, those tomato plants have been growing for quite a while. Like, they didn't really do much in the summertime.
Okay.
I think it was just too hot, but I just kept them in there, and now they're doing a lot better. They were starting to flourish a little bit more. But yeah, I didn't really do anything specific for those tomatoes. You have to sometimes be patient with some of your kind of flowering plants, because depending on the temperature, they're going to kind of go through cycles, and maybe they'll even kind of go into hibernation a little bit, and they may not flower and produce fruit every single cycle. So you may have a kind of a dormant time where you're thinking, oh, this isn't doing anything, but don't give up on it, because a lot of times it may come back. As the season kind of changes with the temperatures and different things. So yeah, I know that, I don't know. I was just kind of patient with that, because I was thinking this thing isn't going to grow anything. But then I also had a couple of tomato plants that I had on that smaller, the Tower Garden Home one. And for whatever reason, they just died. And I don't know why. I don't know. Well, part of it, I really probably should harvest those, the kale and the Swiss chard on the top, because I kind of wonder if it may even be root bound on the top. And a lot of the nutrients and water might not be getting to my lower plants, because the roots are so thick. And I probably should weed those out a little bit, because they've been growing. Honestly, they've been growing in for a long time. So that may be why my tomatoes on the bottom of those kind of died off and didn't get the water and the nutrients that they needed.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to make that decision.
I know. It's just like I hate throwing my, But what I've done too sometimes is, if I've taken a plant out, I'll put it in if it's big and it's still producing and growing, I'll put it in a pot of dirt. And then because I've got a pepper plant in a pot of dirt in my backyard, that the peppers were doing phenomenal, but I'm like, this thing is taking over my tower. So it out and put it into just a separate pot out in the backyard, and it's still producing peppers. And I've done that with some Swiss chard and some other things too. So, you know, if it's just kind of overtaking, you don't want to like kill it and get rid of it. You can just put it into a pot of dirt. You know, it's just too big.
You just got to keep it really wet when that happens, because I've done that and I immediately killed them because they're used to getting water all the time, and I stuck it in dirt and planted it, like watered it like normal, and they were like, see ya. Okay, yeah, so this is another one I wanted to show. You talked about, you can tell something how long it's lived by typically, like, I've harvested this kale. This kale's been here for at least 6 months, if not 9.
Wow.
And so I just harvested it, and it keeps going. So it's growing now, like there's all these extra. So it's like this big arm that sticks out from my tower garden now. But sometimes, like, these are fine, but sometimes they just get too big that you kill them, not because they're dying. It's not that they're not producing anymore. It's just that they're like, they stick out too far or things like that you'll have to, which is fun. That's the most fun. If I get any complaints about the tower garden, it's I can't keep up with it. It's growing too much. I don't know what to do. I was like, give it to your friends.
That will be the day soon.
Yes. And so another word, since it's new, when you plant it, it looks like nothing happens for probably 2 weeks.
Okay.
And it's like, it's not doing anything. But what's actually happening is it's putting all of its energy into the roots. And then at like week 3, it's like, I don't know what happened. My plants doubled overnight. So that's what'll happen. So it'll be like nothing's happening, and it's like, my tower garden doesn't work. And then all of a sudden, week 3, it's like, oh, whoa, okay, now I don't know what to do. So
all right, because I mean, every day I go in and look at every little plant, see how it's doing, and notice that it has not yet grown. So that's good. They're growing on the other end.
Yeah. So don't be discouraged when you don't see any growth. You'll see it, I promise.
I still believe in talking to them though, because I know that they need the carbon dioxide. Hi, how are you? You look great.
You look so green today.
I name my towers. My tower gardens are Baxter, Clive, and Eve.
Oh,
they each have names.
I love that.
Mine doesn't have a name yet. I've tossed around some names, but I don't have one yet.
There you got it. Yeah, you got to give it a name.
It's part of the family.
I know, exactly.
You have your human children, then you have your tower children. I just have a tower and a cat so far.
And Michael.
Yes. He's not a child, I don't think.
Well, I know.
I hope not.
Kid at heart. He's a kid at heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll always be younger than him at heart, so it works. All right, I'll stop recording now.